telling us how to do certain things so that we are respected and we earn respect. There are the law keepers and other people, the government and all, which creates a certain kind of a boundary in which we should move. So it is in this social fabric that we learn our moral values. It is in this social fabric that we learn how to be with each other. And the first thing that the COVID has done is actually shattered this social fabric. The first one was that it started social distancing. And what it, though in the real world it is about physical distancing, but it has completely turned itself into social distancing. Today, the friend that I want to meet and I want to hold hands, I want to shake hands, or I want to do anything is completely a big no-no. We are looking at every other person as probably a carrier of the disease, or at least let me not interact, let me not hold hands. So the social fabric of this whole situation has taken a big toll, and we are completely at our own self to deal with the challenges that we need to deal with. Now that is where the social fabric has taken. On the other hand, what has also happened is that the technology usage has changed itself dramatically. I think each one of you would have seen many memes, gifs going around on technology, where like things like initially mobiles were not allowed in schools. Now school has come inside the mobile. Initially talking to each other on phone was not considered. If I was very close to somebody, I might well as go and talk to that person instead of calling on the phone. We have had long time back when technology was introduced in humankind, like when the TV started, and in India it was called Doordarshan.
Ma'am, sorry to interrupt. Can you please share your screen again, if you don't mind?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I will do that. Give me a minute. Yeah. Yeah, can you see it now?
Yes, ma'am.
Gururaj, can you
Yes,
see
ma'am.
it now?
Yes.
Is the screen visible, Gururaj?
Yes, ma'am. Somebody is trying. Again, you can share screen.
Oh,
Please, on those who are trying to join the meeting, right? I'm denying the entry because most of you are joining newly. They're trying to share the screen. Please don't do that one. It's going to interrupt our session. Ma'am, please share your screen again.
yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, Gururaj, is it visible now?
Please go ahead, ma'am.
Okay. So as I was saying, technology has the way technology is being used has changed extensively in the last few months. Even when technology came into our life, like I remember the early times when I was an adolescent and a youth, and we had just the TV coming in, and Doordarshan was one of the popular channels. One of the things always people used to say, Doordarshan ne logon ko dur kiya. From that stage to today, where we are completely dependent on people to talk, whether it's a mobile phone, whether it is a landline, whether it is a Zoom call or a Google Meet, online virtual platforms like this, the use of technology has changed tremendously. Now, what has this done is that this has made people become even more self-centric. I and my device is a relationship that we see very powerfully getting developed over a period of time. And this particular change in behavior is also something that, is making people realize that things are different now and we need to behave differently. The biggest challenge that the COVID has brought in is a level of uncertainty. Mankind as a species would always and always want to have certainty. In India, like we always have this common statement that goes around, which says, settle ho gaya kya? Which basically means, have you settled in life? So it could be you finish your 10th standard, it's easier for you to settle to go to a better college. You finish your PUC and get good marks, be certain you'll get good marks, better to go to a college. Good college, good job, marriage. And the cycle goes on. So this certainty is what all human beings yearn for. But COVID has thrown away this certainty from our lives. We don't know what is going to happen next. We don't know how things are going to turn around. And what is uncertainty as a emotion, uncertainty as a feeling do to human beings? Uncertainty as a feeling, uncertainty as a expression triggers a lot of pain, a lot of distress, a lot of change in the humankind. It brings out the anger, it brings out the stress response on one side. On the other side, it makes us more motivated to look towards certainty. It makes us more creative. So uncertainty works in terms of extremities. It is difficult at times to find a middle path in terms when there is uncertainty. But then the reactions of most of the people during uncertainty, irrespective of what the uncertainty is, always been extremes. Like as we call it, the fight and the flight reaction. The fight reaction basically means that you look at opportunity, you fight with it, you say, okay, if this is not working, let me try this. If this is not working, let me try that. Whereas flight means that you withdraw completely from the situation and say, oh, it is such a hopeless situation, it is such a useless situation, nothing can be done, everything is going. And both of these reactions, whether I want to fight or I want to flight, both of these reactions are very, very individualistic. It is a choice that we make within ourselves to fight or to flight. But COVID has definitely taken a huge toll in terms of from the point of uncertainty to creating a huge stress response in all the human beings, starting from even as small children as 3 to 5 years, and especially it has immensely affected the youth of the country. Why do I say that? Uncertainty is something that the youth by default is already facing. How will I do my 10th standard exam? How will I do my 12th? How will I do? Which college will I go? When I go to the college, will I be accepted by my friends? Will I do well in college? Will my professors like me? Now, there is a series of questions that are non-stop going in the mind of the youth. And there is a level of uncertainty. But this uncertainty they are able to deal with. But now the kind of uncertainty we are talking about is something that they have to handle as a family, they have to handle as a society, and we have to handle as a universe, because this has affected everybody. So there are many other changes, but if we put all the changes, I found that these are the key major areas in which the changes could be seen. Now, what has happened because of these changes, and because we have become homebound, because we are now all working from home, because we are all the time together as one family in our houses, what has happened to the parenting field? Now, when I look at the parenting field, and when I am talking to parents across different culture, across different age groups, across different lifestyles, I see three common things coming up very, very strongly. One of the things that comes up very, very strongly is screen time. Now there is a very there is a very thin line as far as screen time is concerned. Parenting challenge around screen time is that my child is on the screen for 6 to 8 hours, out of which 3 to 4 hours probably is for the school. But the remaining time my child is either playing games or doing something on the screen, or is just stuck to the screen. So increased screen time leads to many challenges in children and teens. Number one, increased screen time, definitely, I think any ophthalmologist would say, would lead to definitely eye strain, and that leads to some problems. The second important thing that screen time does is that it basically reduces your span of attention. Because when you are on a screen, screen time, you are what we call a passive recipient of information. You are just taking information passively. Your brain is not actively involved because you don't have other clues to help you to make decisions. The brain needs, visual clues, auditory clues. The brain needs to see, the brain needs to hear, to understand things. The brain needs to see the movements of the hands and the legs. Typically, what would happen when we interact on a one-to-one, face-to-face. But screen time has limited our thing to only visual, in visual only auditory, and in visual and auditory not much of movement, because you are stuck to one place. Your whole body is not moving. The person on the other side of the screen also is not moving. We kind of try to create a framework, and it is in that framework that we set ourselves. So screen time is becoming a big challenge at a level of how the brain is getting affected by it on one level. On the other hand, screen time is also becoming in terms of how do I interact with people, because we are losing the clues to understand emotions. Adolescent is an age where you start understanding the emotions of others. You have your own raging emotions that you want to present, and this is something that is not happening, because on the screen you're not able to get those subtle clues by which you learn how people behave. And this is how screen time is connected to emotional expression. So now what is happening is that we are seeing straight faces, We are seeing, just for the, I have known many people, and I think many of you must be doing it for when you work from home. Many of us are not getting into formal clothes, or only the top part of our is formally dressed. We are not into full formal clothes. So there is a split in terms of how we are looking at expression. So the screen is only showing you what you want to see. Now, what is happening in that is that the clues that you use to understand other people is getting lost, and hence there is a emotional expression that is happening, and the emotional expression, especially across groups, that's happening is anger and temper tantrums. We are seeing a lot of children getting very angry, screaming, shouting, fighting, arguing with their parents, and emotional expression is taking a big toll on families. And the third thing is discipline. One of the biggest challenge that parenting challenge that has come across has been discipline. It involves self-discipline. It involves discipline of the children also. Classes are, held at different points of time. There are breaks. Children are, getting up late. I had a kid, a 15-year-old kid who found it difficult to sleep in the night. And when we started going into the history of this kid, and I said, "What happened?" She said, "No, since the lockdown, I'm not able to sleep in the night." And then we realized that her whole, she was getting up, she was sleeping at around 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the night, watching some series or doing something on using the screen time. And then she was getting up at 8 o'clock. Her class started at 8:30 or 8:20. She had just 8:20, and she had just sufficient time to kind of brush her teeth, get ready, just comb her hair and sit in front of the class. 8:20 the class started, 9 o'clock the class ended. The next class I think was at 10 o'clock. So she took that 1 hour to kind of get ready, have breakfast, and then again 10 o'clock class. And that's how the cycle started. Her life before COVID was that she had to leave for school at 7:30, which means her biological rhythm was to get up at 6 o'clock, go through her routines in the morning, get ready, have a glass of milk or whatever the mother gave her, get into the thing, and then go. From 6 o'clock to making her waking time at 8:05 completely changed, and this changed her whole biological rhythm throughout the day. And then she kind of wouldn't go to sleep. I will come back to this particular teen, or what happened, and where has she now progressed. As a part of this lack of discipline, there was a discipline. I'm not saying there was no discipline. She was attending the classes regularly. She was there on time. Some of her homework assignments were getting, completed, so nobody bothered. But what was bothering the child was that because of lack of sleep, she was most of the time irritable. She was angry. She was arguing with her mother a lot. So the challenge is, so for the parent, it was becoming like, okay, because you're watching, your screen time, or you're watching movies or Netflix or something late in the night, you're not sleeping, and the cycle was continuing. So these are the major parenting challenges across age group that's coming out. Now, how do we define these parenting challenges, and how do we understand these parenting challenges?
Ma'am, can you please share your screen again, if you don't mind?
Yes, yeah, I will do that. Give me a minute. Yeah, can you see it, Guru Raj, now?
Yes, ma'am, please hold.
Yeah, thank you so much, Guru Raj. So how do we understand these parenting challenges, and what happens in these parenting challenges? One of the way to understand screen time, and this is my all-time favorite, is using the concept of use, misuse, and abuse. So today, screen time is being used for education purposes and entertainment purposes. When the use of screen time for entertainment goes beyond 45 to 1 hour, it leads to misuse of the whole screen time. And when it goes beyond 2 to 2.5 hours, it leads to abuse of screen time. Why do I say this? Use basically means that you use it. So I will give an example, a very parallel example. So let's take it from, say, the weather is like this in Bangalore now.
Ma'am, sorry to interrupt. Sindhu Ramesh, see, you're disturbing a lot. Been telling not to share the screen. See, now you have shared your screen.
Excuse me, parents. You may pin the man's screen, so that other people, even if they share the screen also, it won't interrupt anybody. You can just pin.
Yeah,
Ma'am,
I'll
please.
reshare my screen. Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
reshare my screen. Yeah, is my screen
Yes,
seen?
ma'am. Please go ahead, ma'am. Sorry to
Yeah, thank
interrupt
you
you,
so
ma'am.
much. No, no issues, no issues. Thank you so much, Gururaj. Yeah. So let me explain the screen time from the concept of use, misuse, and abuse. And dear parents, why am I giving these? Please understand these are the frameworks that you can use to make decisions, because every decision that you make about parenting and dealing with parenting challenge cannot be covered. So this is a framework, and I'm going to go further and give another framework. Please use this framework to help yourself and your children to be healthy and safe during this whole session, during this whole COVID period as a humankind that we are facing. So when I look at screen time, let me give a parallel example of to understand the concept of use, misuse, and abuse. So let's say that the Bangalore temperature is something. Cold cough is something commonly seen in many children, adults, all of us at this point of time. What is use? You have cold and cough, and the doctor has prescribed you a cough syrup, and you take it. That's a use of the cough syrup. Now, after some days, you again get cough, or you just coughed a little, and you say, instead of going to the doctor, I will just, use the cough syrup. And instead of just using it once, you take it for 3-4 days, saying continuously taking the cough syrup as suggested by the doctor before is a misuse. It will become a misuse because you really don't know what is the reason for the cough. But then when you see that the cough syrup is making you sleep better, or it is giving you some kind of a calmness or some kind of happiness, you start using the cough syrup irrespective of you have cough or cold. That is abuse. So we need to teach as parents and as people, we need to learn to use screen time. Use screen time for knowledge. Use screen time for learning. Misuse of screen time would be when you increase the amount of time that you're using for entertainment, but actually you're not watching. You're just kind of, how much of information is getting registered in your mind? You're just flipping through the screens, you're just scrolling through the screens, you're playing a game, and then at the end of the day, the only thing that is moving are your fast moving are your eyes and your hands, and because of which repeated use of hands in playing game is also going to give you what is called as RSI, repeated stress injury. And abuse would be that where you stop eating because of screen time. So your mother, you are hungry, it's food time, you're called for food, but the child refuses to come, say I will come after 2 minutes, I will come after 2 minutes. The moment you wake up, the first thing you do is, instead of brushing your teeth or going to the restroom, you first thing is you open the device, open the mobile, and try checking something. Whether it's the number of likes on the Instagram post that you have done, or is it is it the new game that you're wanting to see, or is it confirming if a new web series has been released? The reasons could be many, but that's not the time, and you have gone into a stage of abuse. And that is one of the biggest challenge that all of us are facing vis-a-vis, especially with teens and youth. Discipline. Now, discipline is also becoming a huge challenge, because now, in the name of I have to do a project, I have to do this thing. The biological rhythm, as I shared in the previous, the 15-year-old girl case study, a new adaptation is happening, which is very, very unhealthy. This new adaptation is leading to lot of health issues in the youth, and also complete lack of physical activity, because at least initially there was this walking up to the bus stand, in the school, between the classrooms, playing on the ground, going out and playing with friends in the evening, exercising with friends. All these things are happening. But now, in the background of not having, a new adaptation is coming up, which is becoming the couch potato, or all the time being in front of the TV or the screen, and that's creating a huge challenge. And definitely, as I mentioned earlier, uncertainty. Why are the challenges with the adolescent more different? And I think this is, everybody would agree with me,
Ma'am,
that
which
the challenges with the adolescent are more different because, number one, they've been deprived. So there are three major areas that when you feel a child or adolescent is behaving differently, the framework that we need to ask is the child feeling deprived? Is the person feeling denied, or is the person feeling discriminated? Deprived means I have a right to get this and I am not getting this. So I am deprived of something. And one of the things that most of the adolescents and the youth are feeling today is that feeling deprived of peer interaction. They want to be with their friends, they want to hang out with their friends, they want to have these sharing sessions with their friends, and they're finding it difficult that this peer interaction as they would like to have is not happening. The other challenge that we are facing at this point of time is being denied. One of the major challenges that most of the youth are feeling is that they feel that they've been denied of movement, and there's a freedom of movement that's been denied. Denied is something when somebody stops you from doing something which you feel is your right to do. So the biggest denial that all of us are facing is the freedom of movement. I cannot go where I want to go. Like yesterday, I had one of the other clients. He said, like, this new joint that I've heard a lot about, which has opened up. I would like to go and taste the pizza there. But the fact is, nobody in my house is allowing, and how long can I just wait for that movement to come? So this lack of movement that has, or the restrictions on movements that has happened, it has denied us a basic free will and freedom. And adolescents work highly on free will and freedom. Their need to experiment, their need to explore, their need to find new things, their need to know about new things is all getting curbed, and because of which they are feeling very, very restricted, and they're feeling very, very, denied at the same time, very, very angry and irritable. The third important area that they feel is discriminated. Discriminated is what? When others get something and I don't get. I feel discriminated. So here discriminated is always being compared to others. So the adolescent, and I have many adolescents who have shared this, that, last year they enjoyed so much, next year they will enjoy, but this year was my first PUC, or this year was my 10th standard results. I had these dreams when I was studying for the exam. Everybody did it, but this will never come back in my life. I will not get this opportunity. So they feel that something that they were eligible for is something that they are not getting and others are getting. When they say others, they say people who passed out or passed in last year, or who may pass out or pass in next year, though we don't know how the next year is going to be. But there is a lot of discrimination that they feel when they compare themselves to others. Now, unfortunately, this comparison has also led to another dimension, that during the online classes, there is no comparison. So the positivity of peer pressure that we talk about, the positive peer pressure is not being seen. Like, for example, when I'm sitting in a classroom and the teacher is teaching, I am constantly seeing that, okay, if the teacher has asked me a question, I would like to raise my hand. But now it doesn't matter because nobody's seeing. So I'm not competing with my best friend. I'm not competing with the topmost, the first ranker in the class. I'm not feeling the joy that, the first ranker or the second ranker could not answer the question, but I, who was the 8th ranker or even the 25th ranker, can answer this particular question. So this comparison with others is what we call as a peer reference, is something, again, they are not getting and they're getting denied. And these three, being feeling of deprived, feeling of being denied, feeling of being discriminated, is a huge, huge reason why many, many challenges of the adolescents are being seen, besides all the other challenges of their overall growth and other things. So understanding that what is it that is the reason for challenge can help us to deal with the challenge in a much better way. So if there is a challenge, will there be a solution? The answer is definitely yes. One thing about life is that whenever there is a problem, there will definitely be solutions. So one of the solution, and the solutions also cannot be, it would be nice, I think many of you would like for me to give you a list of do's and don'ts, but that's a prescription, and I don't believe in prescription. It is important that you understand framework and make your own decision, and I found this style of working with parents of adolescents more useful, because now you know how you can make changes in your life, in your own self, to deal with the challenge. So the first solution is limited resources, creative solution. The resources are very limited. The resources of going out, the resources of peer interaction, the resources of getting feedback from teachers, the resources of getting feedback from friends is all become very, very limited. Hence, we need to come out with creative solutions. And what are the creative solutions is something we will discuss very soon. Then building ownership through communication. It is very, very important that you build ownership in yourself and in the teen and the youth through communication. It is not through a sense of you cannot do, but it is
Ma'am, can you
through
please share
a...
your screen? Sorry to interrupt you again.
Yeah, I will share. One second. Yeah, can you see it, Guru Raj?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Please, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. So one of the major challenge is to build ownership through communication. One of the things that we have time and again seen happening with children, teens and adolescents is that when you try to communicate with them in a proper manner, they take ownership of their own work. So just to share two examples at this point of time.
What is this?
Just to share two incidences from in the recent that I have experienced in a workshop that we did online. Okay, can the person please mute? Thank you so much. In one of the two incidences that I would like to share at this point of time, one of them is we did a workshop on creativity online, and we made children create very creative things, and this was a combination of children and adolescents. And the parents kept asking me regularly, will you send the material that they will need? Will you message us before the session starts? And this was a 1 hour session online where we were teaching children how to be creative and create something, create gadget. And it was not create in actual terms, but ideate on a gadget that can be created to deal with COVID solutions. And amazing gadgets were created by children in terms of their ideas. And the first question was asked, and I said, no, I am not going to tell children what they should bring or what they should not bring. They should learn to bring. And hence what we said is, children, we are not going to send any SMSs. We are not going to send any WhatsApp. We want this for you, and we want you to learn this. So please bring the things, because this is only 1 hour. And if you, and what is the consequences of not bringing? The consequence of not bringing is you're going to waste time, and hence your learning would be limited. Trust me, every child from the second day onwards, the third day onwards, we never had a single second wasted, because children would come online with all the information and all the material that we had asked them to get it for the session without parents' intervention at all. So building ownership through communication is one of the most powerful things that need to be done. This the another incident that I have is where we just asked a simple thing for the people to do is to make a list of things that I can do on my own and things that I need support. And when one of these team did things I can do on my own and things I need support, the team found that there are some areas where she could actually do things on her own and she was not doing it. So then just making her go through this communication, saying what happened, and without even saying that it's right, wrong, good, bad, do's or don'ts, the moment she saw the chart paper that she had created for herself, there was an inner change in her, and then she started taking responsibility for some of the things that she wanted to change in her own self. So building ownership through communication is one of and we need to learn the basics of communication of adolescents. The second major solution, I think, is redefining screen time and discipline. Screen time has to be redefined as education and entertainment. For education, how? And for entertainment, how much? Education, especially online classes and other stuff, including sending of the YouTube videos that the schools send, or researching for a project online and all, that screen time should be defined as a useful screen time. Whereas any screen time of entertainment which is beyond, say, 1 hour or 1.5 hours should be defined as a misuse. And if it is stopping every other activity, including education, knowledge gaining and learning, then it's definitely abuse. So redefine screen time personally. Also, there's a need to redefine discipline. And I mean from discipline, I mean it is very important from the dress code that you use to come online to, the way you, from the time you wake up. Don't change your routine that was pre-COVID. If you're waking up at 6 o'clock, wake up at 6 o'clock, do the physical exercises in the morning, and then define your day based on the schedule from the school or the college or whatever you're getting. Don't try to get naps of sleep in between. So can I redefine my own discipline that it is in the framework that was pre-COVID, but then I adapt myself to the COVID timings based on the schedules that the world is giving me. The third thing is positive talk. Positive talk is basically telling the children, teens what they are good at, not all the time saying what they are not doing and what they are not good at. When you combine limited resources, creative solutions to positive talk, building ownership through communication and positive talk, and redefining discipline, you come up with amazing solution for yourself and the team. And those solutions can be taking is very very important. So some of the ideas that I would like to kind of talk about at this point of time is please involve your kids in budget making. It is very important for the kids to understand because I have seen a lot of parents coming to us and saying that the kid is overspending. The kid does not understand that why cannot I order 10 chocolates when you are ordering so much on Big Basket or Amazon or Flipkart, whichever is your choice. And I know a particular child and a parent's conversation where the parents said, no, we cannot and we should not buy, we don't need it. The child was like, no, but I want it. So one of the important things parents is to, in the open communication that I spoke, building ownership through communication, have a conversation with your child between the difference between needs and want. Need is something that I need to survive, like food, grocery. Want is something as a desire, like a chocolate or ice cream, which should be limited in nature. I think time has come at this point of time in human species that we have all gone overboard in doing a lot of things, especially in regards to our wants. From spiking our hair to being stylish to being coloring our hair to all the beauty parameters that define how good I look, at one point of time was defined as need. They were always wants. But now that the situation has changed, I think it is time to relook at the inner beauty and talk about needs and wants in that context. Second thing is do tech fixes to save your children from online bullying. This is one of the major concern parents should have besides the screaming and shouting that's happening to with your children. It is important about talking to them about healthy online habits and what are the tech fixes. Get some tech person you know in your life to tell you what tech fixes that can be done, what is the way it can be dealt with, and how you can deal. Everything need not be dealt through communication. Sometimes tech fixes can also help you. One of the major framework, as I said, I would give one more framework, is incorporate time, task, and territory as a way of life. One of the discipline, redefining discipline would be that the time has anyway been decided for online classes or studying. So the time is decided, the task is decided. Decide the territory. What I mean by territory, a place. The moment you go to this place, you study. The moment you change this place. So when you want to play games, don't plonk on the same sofa and continue to play the game. You finished your class, you're in front of the laptop or the mobile or whichever device you're using, and you finish the class and then you're waiting for the next class to start. You have a half an hour gap and then you just switch from the Zoom or the Google Meet to a game and you're sitting in the same place. No, the time has changed, the task has changed, hence the territory, the place that you're sitting has to change. If you're sitting on the sofa, get up from the sofa and go and sit somewhere else. The moment you bring these small changes of changing the place for every work that you do, trust me, it will bring a huge change in your life as well. And I think with everybody now working from home, identifying spaces for activities at home is very important. Second thing, as a family, creative solution would be to also have what is called as screen time fasting or, tech fasting. What does tech fasting mean? Tech fasting means that we decide 1 hour or 1.5 hours in a day where nobody touches any device. And all of us are together. So tech fasting is something that each one of you should consider so that every day there is that 1.5 hours where even if you're getting bored, you will not pick up the mobile, which will promote you to look at the surrounding. Maybe the house needs a cleaning. Maybe you could come up with a creative idea of drawing or painting or writing a poem, I know one person who's extensively writing poems nowadays. I know another kid who's extensively writing short stories, and the one PUC girl I know is writing a suspense novel, which she never thought she could ever do because now After the class is over, she sits down and she says, okay, I will do this, I will write this. And she only searches online for information for a suspense novel. So these are some of the things that we could look into. So coming back to the first child, teen that I mentioned, the 15-year-old, what happened to her? We had a talk with her about the needs and wants, and she realized in the conversation that, she wanted to kind of stretch her time in the night to look at the Netflix series or whatever she was looking at, and it was not a need. So we redefined, as I said in the whole thing, we redefined her discipline extensively. Now she wakes up at 6 o'clock in the morning. By 6:30, she's fresh and fine. She comes out. She does half an hour, 45 minutes of some exercise with her father. Uh, Obviously, inside the house or in the compound that she does with the exercises. They have great fun time with each other, re-energize themselves. Then she goes and gets ready. 8:20, she's fresh, alert, attentive for the first class of the day instead of that hassled, I just woke up, I'm still drowsy attitude to a alert, active kid. And now her sleep time she has defined as 10 o'clock. By 10 p.m., she gives at 9:45 the phone or mobile, whatever, to her mother and says, and she just switches off the light. And she said initially it took her some difficulty, a few days, 3, 4 days, that she wouldn't get sleep till 12, but she allowed herself to not get sleep, but did not go back to the device. And now, by sharp 10 o'clock, her biological rhythm has reset. She's now going to sleep at 10 o'clock.
Shubha, I'm sorry to interrupt. So, how many slides do you have left out?
One more slide, sir.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
I'll finish on time. Don't worry.
Yeah, sure.
So this is what it is. So parents, this is basically the larger framework in which you need to look at it. I just want to also emphasize on one thing, that parents, managing yourself is equally important in this thing. So one of the way that you can manage is you need to be a role model to yourself. So whenever you are getting stressed and want to shout at the child, start doing this 1 minute breathing. Just step one step back, take a deep breath in, breathe out slowly, and then say, should I really shout at my daughter or my son? So practice 1 minute breathing when you are overstressed. Second thing is, I think each one of us need to follow gratitude. Express gratitude as and when possible. In fact, writing gratitude journal on a daily basis has seen great improvements and changes in people, because it also brings in a lot of brain changes. Be connected and seek peer support. If there is any challenge, talk to your friends and find out, because many times what you want to tell your teen, maybe a uncle or aunt whom the teen was very close to would just call up and the teen would listen to them. Indulge in positive talk for self. Tell yourself not everything is doom and there is a lot of hope. And share your concern and feelings with your teams, because I think it's very, very important that you share your own concerns and feelings with the teen, saying that this is what I'm going through, this is what, and how can we go through this together. Trust me, they have some very, very amazing tips and techniques that they can share. They may not use it on themselves, but when it comes to sharing, and in the process of sharing, they learn for themselves. So I would end this with two simple things: that it is not the strongest of the species that survives, not the most intelligent, but the one who's most responsive to change that will change, most responsive to change will survive. So what is COVID? COVID is caring for oneself and others, owning up the responsibilities of our own virtues, values, and vices in this difficult and different times. So thank you very much for your patient listening, and hope you got few tips and techniques and a framework for you to work with yourself and your team. And over to Guru Raj for the further Q&A session. Thank you so much, and namaskara to everybody.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. Thanks a lot for your wonderful presentation on this topic. Now I request Dr. Maltese to take over Q&A session. And Maltese sir, I have already shared the questions which has been posted by our parents in this group. So I request you to handle this Q&A session.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, madam, for that elaborative session. So now we have certain concerns from parents as well as students. So there are many questions. Because of the time paucity, I have clubbed into similar questions under a single question. So I will be starting my first question, ma'am. Shall I ask?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. So children are continuously attending online classes tirelessly. How to balance the emotional feelings of these children who attend from home in this current situation?
Yeah. I think management of emotion has only straightforward steps. I think number one is communication. Ask the child what is it that they are feeling. Are they feeling distressed? Are they feeling deprived? Are they feeling denied? What is their feeling? Many times children just need to vent out. One of the things that we make is one of the things that we do is we make a huge hue and cry about emotions. But emotions, when expressed, are, as I always say, articulated, helps you to calm down. And especially during the teenage and youth, one of the things that we commonly see is that when they start talking about it. So one thing that needs to be done is that whenever the child is feeling distressed or anything, talk to the child. Second thing with online session is also many children are feeling the teacher is not able to see and they had raised their hand or whatever they have done and the teacher has not asked them the question. I think it's important here and the child feels disheartened. Ask the child what happened, ask the teen what happened, and tell the teen that even teachers are now learning to use this new and we all need to adapt. So it's okay, you can always type. What is important at this point of time is the fact that with the question that was asked, you knew the answer. And whenever there is a need for presentation, you will get the opportunity to present, if not at least in the assessments and in the examination. So focus on during online session with children on focusing on the joys of learning that they are getting, on the joys that they knew something which many others didn't know or very few people in the class knew, and focus on the joy rather than on the feeling of being disheartened or otherwise. Yes, sir.
Okay. Hope
Yes.
parents and children note this. Second question is,
Mm.
sometimes parents feel helpless or helpless seeing their children not listening to them, and parents anticipate adverse outcome. In this situation,
Yeah.
how the parents can handle their anger and convince their children to listen to them rather than not to listen?
I think here, very beautifully, the
What's
parents themselves have actually given the solution. How do I handle my anger and then handle the anger and what we call as non-responsive or non-listening of the parent, the child themselves. So I think the most important thing is first we need to handle ourselves. As I said, doing that 1 minute breathing, because the question and second thing is going through owning up of responsibilities. Trust me, never in the time of history the role of communication can be highlighted more than during COVID period. The only thing that has repeatedly helped people is being in communication and proper communication. So when you talk to the child, if let's say the child has left something untidy, so the child wanted to attend the class, and I'm just creating a hypothetical example. The child wanted to attend a class, just finished eating, just kept it somewhere, and then went, and then the whole cleaning part of it was not taken care of. Important to tell the child how that has a consequence on your life, on the hygiene part of it, because hygiene is of prime importance today. So how is that affecting? So talking to rather than saying that the child should listen to me, can the parent and the child come down with common ground rules for the house? Like you have golden rules in the school, and I think all the children know that there are golden rules that are set in school. Each school has their own set of golden rules. Each classroom has its own set of golden rules. Can the child and the parents create a set of golden rules and then help each other to follow? That's what I said. Redefine discipline in your own life. It is not all the time about listen to what I am saying, but it is about can we talk so that we can follow. So if we can change the perspective to can we talk, decide, and hence follow. And I think that should be the mantra rather than say just listen to us, just listen to us. Yes, thank you, Maltesh. Yeah.
Okay, ma'am. The next question is, so my daughter is not able to concentrate in these online sessions. How to make her concentrate on these sessions?
Yes, I think that's one of the biggest challenge. That is one of the most unexplored area. How to make children concentrate on online session. There are two factors to online session. One factor to the online session is the way the child learns. So if your child is a learner who likes to learn by moving, then the online sessions are definitely very restrictive for your child. If your child likes to learn by seeing, then online session may be of some help. If your child learns by listening, then online sessions are more useful. So I think one of the ways to understand is to understand the way your child learns, number one. Number two, then figure out if your child is not a what we call as an auditory learner, learns through listening and actually learns through moving, then get the concept and make the child move around and listen to the whole. So record the session and make the child move around and listen to the lecture again. Second thing, one of the major reason children find it difficult to concentrate on online session is basically uh, their eyes get strained very easily and they start looking here and there. The third thing is also it's important to understand children and teens by default actually move a lot during in the classrooms also. Our high school teachers will tell us that this is one of the challenges that they face with students. Some and many quite a few of the students. So if the child is just moving here and there does not mean the child is not listening. So I think this whole listening thing is very, very difficult to assess. So the best thing to assess is ask the child, have you understood what has been taught in the class? If not, how much have you understood? And what more do you need to understand? And from there, help the child to understand the other things and then focus. Also, some exercises of the eye and some attention improvement activities that can be done with the child will improve the child's attention to focus on in the classroom situations. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question is the concern from the working parent. When they are working from home themselves, how to give attention to their children?
Yeah. So when they're working from home, how to give attention to the children? As I already said, it is again what we call as redefining your discipline, redefining your patterns of adaptation. What that basically means is that you tell the child that, okay, I have an online meeting now. For the next half an hour, I will be into this. Can you finish this or can you attend your online class? Or you're telling the children that the food is ready, I am going. So again, I'm again coming back to saying that communication is the key. Telling the child what you're doing, telling the child how long you're doing. So remember I said time, task, territory. Telling the child so long, this is the work I'm doing. This is what is ready for you. Can you do this for yourself and I will come back. I usually tell parents that after every 45 minutes to 1 hour, take a break, go around, just check out with the child not check out with the child what they're doing like a dictator or like a Hitler, but go around and check out with the child what is happening. Are they fine? Are they enjoying? Just tell them, oh, my meeting was very tough or my meeting was very amazing. It was a great meeting. Drink a glass of water. Just have a little 2-minute chat and then come back. It's like taking a break between your work as you do in office. The only difference is in office you go and talk to your friends or other colleagues. Here you go and talk to your children. And I think that is a thin line that you need to balance. But however, work from home parents definitely have more challenges. And each home has its own different style and structure and way of functioning. So you need to learn, you need to figure out these adaptations within yourself, or you need to take help of your friends or experts in this area. But the major thing is define and communicate are the two important things that you should do. And once you start talking from that language, when you start talking from clarity, trust me, your children will also start following what you want them to do. So it's not very easy to do, but then it's not impossible to do, because impossible, even if you say it's impossible, the word impossible has within itself, I am possible. So end of the day, I need to take the call and make it possible for my family and my children. But it is possible by following certain templates and by following certain discipline within the family as a whole, rather than the discipline that was imposed upon us by outside, like the school timing, the college timing, the office timings, and so on. So if we can redefine that and do, then it would be of great use to us and the children. Thank you. Thanks, Maltesh.
Thank you, ma'am, for providing solution for the challenging task. So last two questions. So there are special groups like children aged less than 5 years. Like my daughter throws temper tantrum and bites nails due to stress, anxiety, and social isolation. How to handle this?
Some of these things will have to go to Dr. Maltesh will have to go to experts. The anxiety and stress, even in young children, is being seen. Find out experts online, and you can seek help, because this would need at least between 4 to 5 sessions for the child to just come out of this problem, because the child has to learn how to adapt with the stress, especially when the child is very young. whatever I have spoken is in more relation to the adolescent group, not to very young children. When we deal with young children, the style of dealing would definitely change. Keeping in mind the adolescent group, my whole presentation and my tips were very, very for the parents of the adolescents, especially starting from say around 11 or 12 years and going up to 19, 20 years of age.
Thank you,
Yes.
ma'am. Parents, kindly note the session was mainly for adolescents, and handling younger children would be different from handling the adolescents. Okay, last two questions, ma'am. So,
Yeah.
how to make the children get involved in creative activities when we are not able to attend them?
Oh, it's one of the most easiest thing I feel we can do. Making children be creative throughout the day is to find out how to be creative. Uh, I will just give one simple method: is ask the child to take 2 to 3 objects from home and try and create new things out of the objects. And trust me, children, even adolescents have their ways of being creative. So two techniques I can give. One, and we have found it to be very useful. One was using a dictionary. Open a dictionary, just skim through the pages, pick up one word, again write it down, again skim through the dictionary, pick up another word. Now you have got 2 words together. Now see what are the various permutations and combinations you can make out of the words, how many new words you can create. Ask the child to take 5 objects from home, and from these 2 words, create names for those new 5 objects. So it could be, say, a pencil stand, or it could be a water bottle. But the child has got, say, traffic and intervention. Can the child use traffic and intervention, these 2 words that the child got through dictionary, and come up with a new name for the pen stand or the water bottle? So this is more about teaching the child to rename different objects, then drawing, then playing the game. And one of the common game to play is give a child a set of words and say, come out with a story, or take 4 or 5 pictures from different newspaper or magazines, cut them and give it to the child and say, look at these pictures. You don't have to be very clear that the picture has to follow sequence. Give the child and ask the child to come out of a story. So say you say, I am going into a meeting, or I am going to finish cooking. These are the 5 pictures. I will come back after 45 minutes. Can you give me a story? And when the child starts giving a story, you add to the story and make it a useful story. Write it down and probably share it in the family WhatsApp group. So there are many things like that you can do to improve the creativity of the children. And I think especially during this time, then I think from learning Rangoli to learning the different art forms are also one of the ways to improve child's creativity during this form. But doing the storytelling, poem writing, naming objects in the house, and every object in the house can have a unique name, are some of the best activities that can keep you occupied for a very long time and actually stimulate the brain so much that learning online will become actually much faster and easier. So these are some of the things that you can look into and do with your child.
Thank
Yes,
you, ma'am.
yes,
Thanks
Madhav.
for those solutions. Last question, ma'am. So, are there any special foods to improve activities or concentration with my child?
Are they special? Can you repeat the question, Maltesh?
Food items there.
Food items. I think as far as
Are
food
there any
goes,
special foods? Yes, ma'am.
okay. Thank you, Maltesh. So I think food. I think it's very clear. Junk food is a big no-no. All the cold drinks, chocolates, ice cream are a big no-no, and sugar. I'm not a nutritionist, definitely, but I know for sure that high carb and high fat foods that have high carbs and high fat in them are definitely not good for attention and concentration. So basically, what I'm seeing around myself is lot of videos and photographs that are running on WhatsApp and all is about the cooking done at home, but most of the time it is very high in fats and carbs. All the cheese and the butter and the oil that's getting used. If we can curb on that and come out with healthy methods, healthy cooking methods, then that would be one of the most interesting way to improve the attention of the children.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for those solutions. Hope parents and adolescents both note these wonderful solutions given by the madam. Sir, over to you, sir.
Okay, thanks a lot,
Yeah.
Dr. Maltesh and Ms. Shobha Mangoli ma'am, for giving your inputs and solutions for the questions raised by our parents. Dear parents, I once again thank you all for joining this webinar, free webinar. I request you all of you to subscribe our YouTube channel, which I have posted on the chat, and also I request you to like our Facebook page, and also please regularly watch our YouTube channels to notify our upcoming webinars details. So I'm sure that we in upcoming sessions will be even more interesting with the well-known speakers. So I thank you once again, all of you. I once again thank on behalf of IIH Karnataka and IIH chapter to both to all the speakers, in fact, so all the IIH members who have joined this session and taken the responsibility to involve themselves into this session. I once again thank Shobha ma'am and also Dr. Maltesh, Dr. Anvit